Now we're here for the first ever Front Porch Grilling with the Mustangs. I'm Dylan Larck. I'm here with Coach Hunter Adams. Coach, we just had a whole 16-minute conversation about the upcoming game.
Yeah.
And I guess you're ready for the questions, I must say.
Come on with it. We'll do it again, man. I had a blast the first time.
All right, we'll talk about the Marbury game.
Yeah.
28-13 win. You corrected me on this. 290 rushing yards from Arthur McQueen. Yep. What went into last week's game that gave Arthur McQueen just so much gusto just to run over the Bulldogs?
Well, it's Arthur being Arthur. Arthur's physically prepared himself for that. He's got the traits as a running back to do those really special things. He's a 1,700-yard guy, last year, and he's worked that much harder throughout the offseason. His body composition has improved, long speed's improved. You know, we're excited about him and the kind of year that he can have, and I think that the start was indicative of what he can do.
And we saw the first time Zach Holcomb got to step in in a real game scenario as the quarterback. What were your thoughts on how Zach Holcomb was composed in the pocket and just took over the game?
I thought his composure was outstanding. You know, he'll be the first one to acknowledge it and tell you, he had a C grade on the night just because of every play for him is a read of some kind. And when it's your first time playing and defenses are doing some funky stuff to try to disrupt you, he missed a lot of reads. He had a chance for a video game numbers night. But that being said, the kid never lost his composure, rock solid cool on the sideline. He'd come to the sideline, get the corrections from the coaches, go back in and go right back to work.
And I'm sure that grade doesn't take into account the amount of missed tackles he caused.
He forces a lot of missed tackles. We can see it every day.
I saw a lot of big defensive tackles try to wrap him up, and they ended up on the grass, but Zach Holcomb didn't.
He's slippery. He's quick. I'm excited about Zach.
He's one of my favorite players to watch during practice because I just watching him move. The quarterback's always going to be the fan favorite to watch because they do so much at one point, and just watching Holcomb and. I try to look back at my football days, like, how would I react if I saw Holcomb run towards me? And all I can say is I don't think I'd be getting a tackle on that play.
I don't know. Do you remember Tony DeJarnett?
I do remember that.
He's a lot like Tony.
That should make a lot of Stanhope fans very excited to see what we can see from Holcomb throughout the rest of the season. All right, so going into this week's game, Prattville, it's been a hot minute. It's the last time Stanhope was able to walk off the field with a W over Prattville. What about this year's team gives you the confidence that this could be the year, this is the team that can take down the Prattville Lions?
Leadership with this team, man. Our leadership from the top down is outstanding. We've got leaders in every class. We've got guys with great leadership potential and leadership examples in the freshman group, sophomore group, junior group, and some really, really great leaders amongst our senior group. Our senior class is not very big this year. It's only 11 guys. But if you look at the caliber of those guys, they're exactly the kind of kids you want on your football team.
Oh, yeah. And talking about some of those leaders, Cam Anderson, I've talked to him several times because he's one of those guys that every time I want to interview with a player, if I want to just talk ball, talk shop with anybody, I want to talk to Cam because Cam is always mindset's on, I want to get to the next level. Yep. Playing the best I possibly can will get me there. What have you been hearing from the leaders of this team this week that are ready to be part of this senior class hasn't beaten Prattville, and a lot of these guys on this team were barely born. Jay Stone mentioned it to me on an interview. He was 2 years old last time it happened. What about this senior leadership and the senior group of players just shows off that they're more hungry than what you've seen?
I wouldn't say necessarily more hungry, but I'll say that they're willing to do more to get it. They're willing to digest more. They're willing to practice longer. They're willing to spend extra time in film. Like these guys want every bit of it that you can pour into them. And if I said, hey man, I've got a group that I call my 9 that are kind of my leadership council on the team. Now, and if I texted my 9 and I said, hey, we're going to have 4:30 film session in my classroom at 6:14 in the morning, they'd probably beat me there. Like that's the kind of group of kids this is. You talked about Cam. Cam's a consummate leader. Cam does not have bad days. He's on every day in terms of who he is, how hard he works, how he verbally encourages, and how he physically models for his teammate. And it was great to see him get off to such a strong start with 4 sacks in game 1.
And I got to see Des Barnes talk to him a little bit too. Oh, big baby.
Big baby.
Came to me and he got up. He was like upset, man. I only got 1 sack. And it's like they gave Cam like 3 of mine. It's like, dude, it was one of my favorite calls of the night because I called him Big Baby on the call, which was the funniest thing ever.
It's the perfect moniker, man, because Dez is one of the most fun kids to be around because, I mean, he's a 310-pound man-child, but he's having a blast all the time like my 9-year-old. You know, like he's good spirits. He's happy. He can have fun in any room that he's in.
It's so funny watching because I think he has a little bit of stage fright. So I put him from a camera, and he'll get all quiet, and I'll turn the camera off, and he turns right back into himself again. It's so funny to watch it. But going back to some of the leaders on this team, like Darian Smoke, went down with an injury against Marbury. What's his status going into the Prattville game?
We hope that he can play, but we've got to be smart about that situation. You know, this is only game 2. It's a non-region game. The meat of the schedule is the back end of our schedule in terms of region play. We've got to make sure, 1, we take care of him, 2, that we get him ready to play at critical moments, you know, for this team. Now, all that being said, it's his senior year. It's Prattville. If he's ready to go and gets the medical all clear, you know, then of course he's going to get action.
And if he's not ready to go, who can we expect to see to take over? Because, you know, a lot of motions with Darian Smoke. You know, he ran in the first touchdown of the season. Well, who can we expect to see to take over if Darian Smoke's not ready to go?
There'll be several guys that can play that position. Standouts, we've got a hybrid tight end in Will Griffin, smart kid, big kid, athletic kid, senior tight end. He can do a lot of different things. You can flex him out. You can bring him into the backfield. Freshman Leland Merritt, who's a track star, you know, blossoming dynamo type kid that can play wide receiver. He can play the H-back. He can play tailback in the backfield, returns kickoffs. You know, those two will probably, their snap count will increase if we don't have Darian.
And talk about the senior leaderships on this team. Who are some of the young guys? And, you know, you just mentioned Leland Merritt, the freshman, who's just an absolute athletic monster.
Yeah.
Can run faster than lightning, from what I've seen. Who are some of the freshmen or even sophomores that you've seen on this team kind of emerge as leaders?
Another freshman, DeAndre Washington, in the secondary. You know, he's got potential to be an SEC level defensive back by the time he's a senior in high school. He's an honor student. He's already a big kid in the secondary at 5'11", 165. You know, elite speed, great ball skills, and he's smart enough to digest and play 3 different positions in the secondary. Really a standout guy there. As far as sophomores go, you got Dominic Sager on the defensive line, who's a sophomore that is at times can be an impact guy. You know, now he will always benefit from playing opposite Des Barnes, who absolutely mandates a double team or he's getting a TFL, and so that helps him a lot there. Offensively, Dez's little brother Demarion Barnes, who can be electric with the ball in his hands and do some things as well as a 10th grader. D actually only turned 15 years old yesterday, you know, so he's still a puppy.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dominic Sager. I actually got to talk to him during practice, during a downtime. And we talked about the Pike Road game from last year, and you mentioned he played against Des Barnes a lot. He also had to play against Malik Blockton, too. So that probably helped a lot with his development he was a standout freshman last year.
Dom really shouldn't have stage fright on a Friday night because I don't think you could throw anybody into a hotter fire than he got thrown into, going from freshman defensive lineman to starting right tackle in a game against an elite SEC caliber player like Malik Blockton.
Yeah, because I think I talked to Thomas Williams.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, what's the game plan going against Malik Blockton? He was like, oh, we're just going to look where he's at, and we're going to go the other way. And then I heard the next day, Malik Blockton just unstoppable. But I'm sure that did a lot for development for Dominic Sager because,
it did.
I mean, he got invited to some camps not too long ago.
Dom's a tough guy, man. I mean, Dom qualified for, he went deep in the state wrestling tournament as a heavyweight freshman last year, which is a very, very rare thing. He's got some grit to him.
Yeah. One of my most photogenic players whenever I'm there taking media photos.
He likes to be in front of the camera. There's no stage fright with Dom.
Another kid doesn't have any stage fright, Jay Stone.
Yeah.
I know he loves it when the cameras are on him. He always has something to say, and every time Jay Stone talks in front of a microphone, I got to stop and listen because he is just an outstanding player.
Man,
and vote for him for Wetumpka Herald Player of the Week.
Yes. Jay Stone, man, a great leader. Honor student. The kid's got a 4.25 GPA. He's an absolute football savant for a kid. He's got a future in coaching when his playing days are done. He loves the game. He understands it at a really high level. I'm looking back, he started from game 5 on at our strong safety position last year, And I was hesitant because I knew that he had the game down mentally. He was a little bit undersized. And I was hesitant to start him and kind of throw him in the fire. I really wish if I could go back in time, I'd probably give him the nod from day one just because I know how well he understands and handles things at this point. But I love Jay Stone. I'm excited to watch him play this year. He's going to be a factor every Friday night. And
you mentioned earlier, Stone actually went to the Pike Road Prattville game, had his own notepad, too, taking notes.
He did, man. It was just like I sent another defensive assistant, with a specific set of tasks. And he was excited to tell me about it the next morning. And to be honest, he was on point with most everything he wrote down.
Well, we should have brought Jay Stone in for this next question. So Prattville has a wide receiver in KJ Blue. Also have another wide receiver, number 15, who's another athletic receiver for Prattville. When you watch this offense play, what is your game plan going into this week?
Positional awareness. You've got to know they move guys around for very specific reasons, and they do a good job with it. They exploit defensive tendencies and defensive rules when they move players around to manufacture certain touches in certain positions. We've got to be very disciplined and diligent in identifying how they move those guys, where they move those guys, what their receiver splits look like, what their depth off the line of scrimmage is, what their stance tells us, when they're in the backfield, what hash they're on. All those things are clues pre-snap that can give you an idea of what's about to happen and allow you to have some foresight into the play and what they're trying to do. And we've got to be very, very diligent with our eye discipline pre-snap every play to know exactly what's going on and exactly what that means to our responsibility snap to snap.
Yeah, and I got to watch some of the game. They run a lot of empty sets from what I saw, and sometimes they run single back with a tight end blocking for them. So what are you telling your linebackers? Because it's going to fall a lot on Jesse Christensen and Jacob Tharp on them, trying to keep up in the middle of the field.
Well, you've got to understand, again, what those formations mean, right? When they're in empty, what's their run-to-pass frequency? What's their target area? Our kids look at hit charts as far as when they're in this formation on this down and distance, the ball's most likely going to this part of the field. So, again, situational awareness. We've got to make sure when we talk about the inside guys, it's getting good depth in your drops, getting your eyes where they're supposed to be, and matching the routes that attack the part of the field that you're responsible for.
And we saw a balanced attack from Pike Road, 200 and 200 on both by land and by air.
Yeah.
What is the game plan for the offense this week when it comes to trying to take down this Prattville defense?
Well, we want to be versatile in what we do and diversified in what we do. Now, with first-year quarterback in Zach, if I ask him to throw the ball 20 times a game, that's unfair to Zach. Now, granted, Jamari Coleman can go get it with the best of them in Alabama on the outside. He's electric. He's a great player. He's a great kid. But what we've got to do is we've got to diversify touches between Arthur, Zach, D. Barnes, Jamari, Darian Smoke, to where we keep defenses off balance and in conflict, with multiple reads and responsibilities each play. If we do that and have a good physical performance again from our offensive line, then we've got a chance to have a really strong night offensively.
Yeah. And they were able to run for 228 yards, and we just got talking about Arthur McQueen, who rushed for more than that by himself. Do you think that we'll be able to see a rushing attack this potent with Arthur McQueen and D. Barnes and Lee Merritt as well?
That's the goal, man. I mean, when you look at this past Friday, and, I know Prattville can be a different animal, 7-18, really talented football team. We can't, though, change our identity and what we want to accomplish just because of the name on the other side of the schedule. We went for 427 yards on the ground this past Friday night, which that was our goal for the season is 4,000 through 10 games. We want to average 400 yards rushing a game, and we think that we're built to do that. So we've got to do the things that allow us to play with that mindset, to play with that purpose, and to do it effectively.
And I guess my last question to get – so the next home game after this Friday is in October.
Yeah.
A whole month of football without a home game in Foshee Henderson Stadium. What is your message to the Mustang family that if they have to wait a week, why it's important they show up for this game?
Man, I shouldn't have to have motivation for this game. And this one, I can remember the first time I ever coached in this game back in 2011. Prattville won the state championship that year. I think we lost 7-6 on a late turnover, and it was one of the biggest crowds that I can remember for a Stanhope Elmore Prattville game, it's electric every time we play, regardless of what stadium we're playing in, regardless of whose record is what. It's a great community rivalry. It's high school football at its absolute best. I want our kids to soak it in, to appreciate it, to have fun doing it, and hopefully we come out with a big win on the other side and build some momentum for this road stretch. The good thing about the road stretch, though, the way you got to look at it, is that heavy-handed playoff stretch on the back end, in region play. A lot of that's at home late in the year, So you got to understand the good with the not so good, I guess.
It's a whole month of football follows in, and I remember last year was my first year, being in Stanhope Elmore.
Yeah.
I played against him in soccer when I was in high school, which was around the same time you were. Your first year coaching was my first. I was in elementary school when you first started coaching.
Man.
Well, when I came from Elmore County.
Yeah.
We're both Elmore County alum. It felt different coming from Elmore County to coming to Stanhope Elmore High School. What have you noticed in your time here that just makes Stanhope Elmore just so much different than other schools and other fan bases?
It runs deep. Football dictates the energy for a lot of things around here. You ask our principal the first thing, man, he said, hey, run the football program the right way, and it positively affects the hallways of the school like nothing else that we can do. Excuse me, and you can see that we talked about that group of leaders that we have on the team. They're leaders in the hallways the same way. They're contagious energy guys. They're great examples. Anything they're involved with, man, they bring it up. And that's what we want the program to be. That's what we want football at Stanhope Elmore High School to do, not just in the school, but in the community as a whole.
And so we got a question?
Yes. First of all, hello, Coach, sir. My understanding is that the Prattville Stanhope game is the I-65 grocery ball. So I know that's going to mean a lot. My first question is, Coach, I know in the beginning their quarterback was so elusive, and we were having some problems trying to catch up with him. But things changed in the second half. Did the coaching philosophy change, personnel change, or what caused y'all to be able to crack down on him?
We got our eyes in the right place. I keep coming back to that word eye discipline, right? What was happening early in the game is they were attaching an H-back behind the offensive tackle, and they were running sprint out and roll out concepts. And when that happens, your pressure angle has to change. And not only do you have to work at the outside angle of the offensive tackle, once you're past his heel line, you've got to work to the outside shoulder, not the inside shoulder of the H-back, right? What that does is compress the pocket, doesn't let him keep pushing to the wide side of the field. And so once we addressed that and did it correctly, we kept the quarterback in the pocket, let the pass rush from the inside take over, and things went a lot better.
It definitely worked. One more question.
Jam, you can ask me as many questions as you want, brother.
I just thought it was so awesome that there was a time we were kicking the extra point, and the snap went high. And I don't know if it's the quarterback or who it was that was the holder, but he had the wherewithal to capture the ball and to run it on into the end zone. Is that something that you practice, or is just on him to have the
It is. No, it's that in that situation, it's Jamari Coleman, who's our starting wide receiver, is the holder. And dude runs a 4.39 40, so he can get to the edge pretty quick. But Jamari's a great kid, good hands. That's why you like him in that holder position. If the snap is off to where he thinks the timing doesn't allow him to get it on the tee for Colby, he goes into what's called our fire protocol. And he's got an option right there. You've got a shoot route and a corner route from varying positions depending on how the defense is aligned right there for him to throw into the end zone as a safety valve. But with Jamari's speed, I tell him when you come up on a fire call, if the edge is open, you take the edge, and all I had to tell him was one time, and he did a great job in that situation Friday night. He really did.
That's all I have, Coach.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Coach, this is your second year.
Yes, sir.
Take the players aspect out of it. What would a victory over Prattville mean to Hunter Adams?
I don't know that I can take the players aspect out of it, man, because my mind and my heart rolls through them first and foremost. What it would do, though, what it would mean to me is gratitude and joy, because I would get to see a sensation in them that they deserve, that I really want to see them achieve. and something that would make a memory that would last with them forever, you know. And that's what I want to get out of this.
How important is Bryant and Anderson up front on the defense to control a lot of the offensive line Prattville has? They're big, block well, quarterback had plenty of time to throw.
Yeah, man. Dez and Cam are as good as you could ask for inside. We've had some really elite defensive lines in my tenure here. T.J. Jackson, William Whitlow, Caleb Foster, Jaquise Bay. I mean, all those guys are playing college football at really high levels. Dez and Cam are in that same breath. You know, they're in that same breath. And Dez can give you pressure from the inside. He makes it really hard in the run game because even if you double team him, he can collapse a double team. You know, he's that strong and that athletic to play down the line. Cam's a smart football player, physical football player. You know, he's basically a giant linebacker. You know, he just kind of outgrew the middle linebacker position, and he's so disruptive on the edge that you just have to put him there to get him closer to the football to make plays. But when those guys have big games, we're going to have big games. You know, and I hope they have a lot of big games. I expect them to have a lot of big games. So.
And I guess it kind of brings it back to brings up the defensive line. You know, Gabe Lewis was a player that I talked to a lot when it comes to talking to him at practice, and I saw a lot of him playing offensive line this week. So what went into that decision?
Well, Gabe actually last year before he tore up his knee midseason and missed the last 4 games. Prior, he had been the starting right tackle the whole season. You were talking about Dominic having to block Malik Blockton earlier. Well, that's why, you know, Gabe and then Gabe's backup both got hurt. Gabe was our highest grading offensive lineman last season. There are going to be situations on Friday night. He plays the strong side defensive end for us in situations we're playing teams that run a lot of gap scheme stuff with pullers and heavy double teams and fullbacks trying to kick out the end because he's a big, strong body, you know. But he's also a really, really good offensive lineman. So when we're seeing teams that are more spread, more 10 personnel, you know, where his game doesn't really give us an advantage, he gives us an advantage on the offensive line. So we're trying to be smart with our personnel groupings to make sure we've got our best 11 on the field all the time.
There. Any more questions from? Good. All right, Coach. Well, I guess we'll get out of here. I guess if you want to give one more little message to the Mustangs out at home watching.
Come out. It's the last time this game will ever be played at Fochie Henderson Stadium. Be loud. Be rowdy. Love these kids. Love the program. Do it for them. If you're not already a member of the Mustang Quarterback Club, they're awesome people. They do a ton for these young people. Absolutely phenomenal group. I would encourage you, if you're an alumni, have a family member involved, or have a kid on the team, be a part of that group. Go Mustangs. Let's get it done.
And, of course, if you can't make the game, you can always be loud and rowdy from your couch watching on the Mustang Roundup stream, where I'll be loud and rowdy for you on top of the press box, jumping up and down because I love the game of football too much.
This guy does a great job. He's got a lot of energy on Friday nights. I go back while I'm watching Huddle on Saturday mornings and listen to your calls just so I can have a little fun with it.
Yeah, again, big baby Des Barnes. I had a Darian Smoke call last year that I had two girls up top. They were working the camera for me. I looked over after Darian Smoke's like 72-yard screen pass, and they were like almost rolling on the floor laughing because I was like jumping up down like.
One that stands out to me is your Jamari Coleman call versus Carver when he broke 8 tackles after the catch and went for 72 yards.
I thought he was going down too.
Yeah,
that was
fun. That was fun. Great job, Dylan. Appreciate you, man.
Great W too, man. Well, that and for you, Dash, just for you, Dash, Mustang Country, let's ride.